Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Katrina and this is I am going to do some of Jim's books reading and stuff alphabet tags. I'm going to do F, G, and H and see if we can do it without me being too talkative. I am very talkative, but hopefully I can get through this in a timely manner so this won't be crazy long. Let's see. The first prompt is F is for France. Who is your favorite French author? And again, I am uncultured swine. I have not read, I don't think I've ever read a translated work knowingly. The next prompt is F is for fiction. Approximately what percentage of your reading is fiction? I would say probably 90%. I fast read through fiction unless it's something like, I quickly read through When the Reckoning Comes, which is my favorite book now, my favorite book of the year, probably now, my favorite book of all time right now. But now that I'm rereading it, and I'm taking it very, very slow, and I slow read nonfiction that way because I'm trying to learn something and really absorb the information. I annotate, take notes, and all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I don't read as much fiction. Also, I'm normally reading fiction, nonfiction, in an area where one of my identities intersect, and sometimes it's difficult to be reading that stuff even though I'm trying to understand it or understand where I can help. Like maybe one day I can volunteer somewhere, or just trying to understand about myself or people in my life, and sometimes that can be painful, and so I don't always pick that up. And then also when it comes to things like race or left-leaning politics, I get to a point where it's like, okay, I can only learn so much and then not be frustrated when our country isn't moving in the right direction. And it just, I don't have that hope. Like Martin Luther King, he says that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, meaning change takes a long time, but it does happen. So I don't know if he believed that at the end of his life. I've read a lot of biographies and things about on him, and toward the end of his life he was very depressed, and he had lost a little bit of faith in that thought process because of the Poor People's Campaign and how that was received, and the way we were entering into the way we were behaving in the Vietnam War. And just when he went to the North and saw how badly racism and how poverty and racism went hand in hand and how deeply entrenched it was, it shocked him, it demoralized him. And so I get to a place where if I'm reading all of this stuff, I sometimes have to take a break just because I'm like, okay, where are we going? And now, like, you see people with these signs all the time saying, I have to protest this shit again, or my parents were protesting this, or, so that's one of the reasons why I find myself having to take a break a lot of times. And I read lots of fiction and fantastical stuff because I'm a news junkie, and right after Trump won, I took a break from the news, but for the most part I am addicted to news, so I really do. But I've cut myself down, I've cut down on it, but I'm quite depressed by the state of things and where we're going and how people are acting out, so I find myself not choosing to be that way when it comes to my reading. My reading really is escape. And it's funny that I'm in this corner of the booktube universe, the booktube neighborhood, where a lot of my compatriots, my counterparts read much more challenging things, and they're very interested in much more challenging works. And I sometimes feel frivolous. And it's because I do think very deeply about race, religion, feminism, body positivity or body neutrality, or health at every size, whatever label you want to put on that. I don't know if I said mental illness, Black people in prison, and I feel really deeply about those things. When there is a shooting or a beating, I feel that stuff very, very deeply. And so I do need a lot more frivolous reading, I feel. So I failed at answering that question quickly. The next prompt is, F is for fantasy. Who is your favorite fantasy author? And that would be George R.R. Martin. A Song of Ice and Fire is probably the only fantasy series that I have read, unless you consider Harry Potter. But and then obviously paranormal, urban fantasy, and all that stuff falls under it. But if we're talking about just classic high fantasy, the closest thing that I'm probably ever going to get as deep into that I've gotten into is A Song of Ice and Fire. F is for 5 stars. How many books have been 5-star reads for you this year? I thought it was not going to be a lot, but when I went back and counted, I had 13. And I had to stop myself because I was going to change them. I was like, I don't think that's a 5-star anymore. But yeah, so I saw under the comments of Jim's original video, there was somebody who actually hadn't given any 5 stars. And I was just like, wow, we're all such varied people in this community. So interesting. F is for funny. Funny has 2 meanings. What book did you find both funny peculiar and funny haha? So funny peculiar, I would say, is The Last House at the End of Needless Street by Katrina Ward. I have a video that I hope to have put up by the time this goes out talking about it, and it's a spoiler. The majority of that video is spoiler because there's actually no way to talk about that without spoiling it. But that is a very peculiar book, very interesting. And funny haha, I haven't found myself laughing out loud at books. David Sedaris is funny, but I read him years ago, and I don't know if I'd still find it funny. I just remember laughing at his stuff. And there's things that I find joyful. So Talia Hibbard, her Brown Sisters videos, her Brown Sisters books give me joy. They're very light, and I like the situations that the situations that they find themselves in brings a smile to my face. Lots of cozy mysteries do that as well. And Molly Harper. F is for Fight Club and film adaptation. What book and film adaptation both merited 5 stars in your opinion? It's Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pembroke. That I think the movie's on Netflix, or it's a show. It's a mini series either on HBO or Netflix. And the show was a faithful adaptation, but the book is so dependent on the gimmick, the twist, that and it's unforgettable. Like, I've forgotten the end of thrillers before. It's rare, but I have, because sometimes remembering who killed somebody in a long book that's about the journey, or like Karen Slaughter's books, they're a lot more about women's empowerment through their issues. Like, somebody may have been kidnapped, or somebody may have been hurt in a bad way, but the women find power and take back power a lot of times in her books. And her books are all very long. They're like 500 pages. And so I can forget the end of her books a lot of times, and that's a thriller I can reread. But most thrillers, you just kind of chomp them up and move on, and you'll remember them as soon as you read the back of the book again. You'll remember. But this book is unforgettable. Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pembroke. The show was okay. I watched it. It was fine. I wanted to see how they showed it, and I wanted to see if they changed anything, and they changed very little. So it wasn't an amazing experience. So I would say that the book was 4 stars and the show was 3 stars. Not for any problem with the show, but just because it was such a unique twist. So Gone Girl, Gone Girl got a 5-star, and the book, and I would say the show got a 4-star. So it's pretty even. I enjoyed the movie. I don't love Rosamund Pike, and so that took a little bit of my enjoyment away. But there's something about her, I just don't like that actress. But other than that, I think the movie was accurate. Again, like the Sarah Pembroke, once you know the twist, it's not the same as Song of Ice and Fire, where they can add more to the world, or you want to see your characters come alive. You can watch it over and over again because it's not dependent on a twist. Hunger Games was good. Twilight was good. What's the other big one that just went out of my head? And Game of Thrones was awesome until 7 and 8. This is a Dan and Dave hate account. All slander is welcome down in the comments. Okay. F is for Frida. This is a chance to show off your furry friends. So I will insert some picture and maybe some video of Missy, my baby girl dog, Mississippi May. Missy, what you doing? You went outside. You already went out there and you barked to come back in. I'm not taking you back out, so stop staring at me while I read. Name. She was born in Mississippi, even though I live in Louisiana, but Mississippi is right over the bridge. She is a little, probably, I think, a beagle and a terrier. She is 2 this month, and she is the most personable animal. She's so sweet and funny and silly and attitudinal. Love her. F is for flower. What is the last book you read with the name of a flower in the title? Now, I forgot to do this. I wrote down all these books that had anything to do with plants, and I forgot to look up which ones were possibly a flower. So I don't know. Hazel, is Hazel a flower? Hazel and Gray is a book that I read. The Chestnut Man, chestnut comes from a tree. Wisteria, isn't that like a flower that hangs off of wisteria trees? And then that's wisteria is a series. It's a whole bunch of books that have wisteria in it, but the first one is Watch for Wisteria by Angela Pepper. Read that back in March 24th, 2019. And then The Vines by Christopher Rice I read back in 2015. So I looked and I went back as far as Goodreads, and Goodreads doesn't have all of the books that I've read. I didn't get really good at making sure I put every book in there until I started BookTube, actually. And I don't know. I read, as a kid, I read Flowers in the Attic, which I should not have been reading as a kid, and as a young kid too. But yeah, so other than that, and let's see, F is for flash fiction. What are your thoughts or experiences of this medium? I just heard about this recently, and I've never read anything. I just heard about it. And that is the end of the tag. And because I did run my mouth, I'm gonna let this be its own tag, and I will do another one. Let's put this as the emoji if you've got to the end of this. Otherwise, let me know some of your answers to these questions. Be easy on yourself, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.